These 18 story-driven games hit harder than any movie. And if you've never cried while playing a game before, this might be the video that changes that. Today, we're counting 18 narrative games that don't just entertain, they emotionally wreck you. Let's get straight into it. Number 1. Disco Elysium. Kicking things off with a game that is basically a philosophy book disguised as a fever dream, Disco Elysium doesn't just tell a story, it crawls inside your brain and starts arguing with you. You play as this hot mess detective who's lost his memory and his mind, and honestly, I've never felt so called out by a video game. Your own internal empire and electrochemistry talk to you, and man, the writing is just on another level. It's hilarious, but then it hits you with a line about loneliness or regret that just leaves you floored. The gameplay is all about dialogue and dice rolls. There's no combat in the traditional sense, but failing a skill check to talk to your own tie can feel more intense than any boss fight. I remember just sitting there, staring at the screen after a deep conversation with Kim Kitsuragi, who is the best partner in gaming history, period, realizing that the game was actually talking about my life choices. The protagonist's struggle with his past and the political decay of Martinez is haunting. It's a slow burn, and yeah, there is a lot of reading, which might turn some people off. But if you stick with it, the emotional payoff at the end is something you'll be thinking about for months. It's gritty, it's weird, and it's profoundly human. 2. Detroit Become Human. Alright, let's talk about a game that makes you the director of your own sci-fi epic. Detroit Become Human is Quantic Dream doing what they do best, making you sweat over a dialogue choice. The world building here is top tier. A near future Detroit where androids are starting to wake up and feel emotions. You control 3 different characters, but for me, Connor and his grumpy partner Hank were the heart and soul of the whole thing. Their chemistry is just peak cinematic gold. What's wild about the gameplay is the branching paths. I've talked to friends who finished the game and had completely different fates for their characters because I made one bad call during a protest. It's that constant pressure of, if I choose this, will I start a war or save a life? The visuals are still some of the best on the PS5, especially the micro-expressions during the interrogation scenes. You can literally see the fear in an android's eyes. My only gripe? Sometimes the androids as a metaphor thing gets a little bit too heavy-handed and lacks a bit of subtlety. But when the stakes are high and you're trying to lead a revolution or save a little girl, your heart will be pounding. It's a masterpiece of player agency that proves your choices can actually carry weight. Number 3. Heavy Rain. Going back a bit to the OG emotional wreck simulator, Heavy Rain. Man, this game was a game changer for me. It's a gritty noir thriller about the origami killer, a psychopath who drowns kids in rainwater. You play as 4 different people, including Ethan Mars, a grieving father who is willing to do absolutely anything to save his son. And when I say anything, the game puts you through some truly disturbing trials to prove it. The gameplay is basically a series of intense quick time events and environmental puzzles. It's interactive drama at its purest. I'll never forget the lizard trial. I was actually shaking while holding the controller. It's not about winning or losing in the traditional way. It's about how much of your own morality you're willing to sacrifice. The atmosphere is constantly gray and rainy, which sets this depressing, urgent mood that never lets up. Looking back, some of the voice acting is a bit meme-worthy now, Sean, and the controls can feel a little clunky and tank-like, but the raw emotion of a father's desperation, that still hits just as hard today. It's a dark, uncomfortable ride that showed the industry that games could tackle mature, parental fears in a way movies just can't match. 4. Undertale. Don't let the retro 8-bit graphics fool you. Undertale will absolutely destroy your soul. It looks like a cute little indie RPG, but underneath that surface is one of the most brilliant deconstructions of gaming ever made. It's a game that remembers what you do. If you kill a monster and then reload your save to try and fix it, the game knows. It's meta storytelling at its absolute finest. The gameplay is genius because it gives you the choice, mercy or fight. You can literally talk your way through the entire game without hurting a single soul, and that's where the real emotional weight lies. The characters like Papyrus, Sans, and Toriel start as funny caricatures but end up feeling like your actual best friends. When you reach the true pacifist ending, the emotional buildup is so massive, it's hard not to get misty-eyed. The only bad thing I can say is that the fanbase can be a bit intense, and the combat system, which is like a mini bullet hell, can get tricky if you're not used to it. But the music? Man, Toby Fox created a soundtrack that is permanently burned into my heart. It's a game about kindness, consequences, and the power of determination. Trust me, you'll never look at an RPG the same way again. 5. Life is Strange. If you ever wanted to relive the awkwardness and the raw intensity of being a teenager, Life is Strange is your game. You play as Max Caulfield, a photography student who discovers she can rewind time. At first, it's all fun and games, fixing small mistakes, being the cool kid, but it quickly spirals into something much darker. The relationship between Max and her rebellious best friend, Chloe Price, is the soul of this story. It's that ride-or-die friendship that feels so real it hurts. The gameplay revolves around making choices and using that rewind mechanic to feed different outcomes. But the genius part is that even when you think you've made the right choice, the long-term consequences come back to bite you. The atmosphere of Arcadia Bay with its indie folk soundtrack and golden hour lighting creates this sense of nostalgia for the present that is just beautiful. The dialogue can be a bit cringe at times, lots of hella and amazeballs that feel like adults trying too hard to speak like teens. But you stop caring once the mystery of Rachel Amber kicks in. By the time you reach that final choice, dude, I was a mess. It's a story about growing up and realizing that even with superpowers, you can't save everyone from reality. 6. Red Dead Redemption 2. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Arthur Morgan is the greatest protagonist in gaming history. Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't just about outlaws and gunfights. It's a 60-hour tragedy about a man realizing he's lived his life for the wrong cause. The world is so detailed it feels like a living character, but the real magic is in the camp. Seeing the Vanderland gang slowly fall apart because of Dutch's ego is like watching a slow-motion car crash. The gameplay is slow and deliberate. You have to clean your guns, brush your horse, and actually live in the world. Some people find it tedious, but for me, it created this deep bond with Arthur. When he gets his diagnosis halfway through the game, the tone shifts from an adventure to a desperate grab for redemption. You start caring more about helping people than about the money. The mission design can be a bit rigid. If you don't follow Rockstar's path exactly, you fail. But the ending? Man, that final ride with the music That's the Way It Is playing, I'm not ashamed to say I was sobbing. It's a monumental achievement in storytelling that explores loyalty, betrayal, and the death of the American frontier.
We never talked about it.
7. Days Gone. This might be a controversial pick for some, but Days Gone hit me way harder than I expected. On the surface, it looks like just another zombie game, but at its core, it's a story about hope in a hopeless world. You play as Deacon St. John, a biker who is just existing, haunted by the memory of his wife, Sarah. Watching him go from this cynical, angry loner to someone who actually cares about rebuilding society is a great arc. The gameplay is all about that bike. It's your lifeline. Managing your fuel and parts makes the world feel dangerous. And the hordes? Fighting 500 freakers at once is pure adrenaline. But the story moments, like when Deacon visits the memorial stone he set up for Sarah, are what really stuck with me. The chemistry between Deacon and his best friend Boozer is also one of the best bromances in gaming. The game had a rough launch with bugs, and the first few hours are a bit of a slow crawl, which turns some people off. But if you stick with it, the narrative payoff is huge. It tackles themes of loss and the lengths we go to for the people we love. It's a gritty, soulful journey through the Oregon wilderness that deserves way more love than it got. 8. The Last of Us Part 2. This game is the definition of emotionally wrecking. The Last of Us Part 2 doesn't care about making you feel like a hero. It wants to make you feel uncomfortable. It's a brutal exploration of the cycle of violence and how revenge is just a hole you dig for yourself. Playing as an older, rage-filled Ellie is a complete 180 from the girl we knew in the first game, and it's heart-wrenching to see her lose her humanity. The gameplay is incredibly visceral, the combat feels heavy, and the enemies, both human and infected, feel real. When you kill someone, their friends scream their name, and it makes you feel like a monster. The mid-game switch to Abby is one of the ballsiest moves in gaming history. It forces you to empathize with the person you've spent 10 hours trying to kill, and it's a perspective shift that changes everything. A lot of people hated the story directions this game took. And yeah, it's a miserable, depressing experience from start to finish. There's almost no light in this world. But that's the point. It's a masterpiece of technical achievement and challenging storytelling. It's a game that stays with you, making you question your own capacity for hate and forgiveness. It's not fun in the traditional sense, but it's essential. 9. BioShock. If you want to talk about a game that redefined what a twist could be, you have to talk about BioShock. Walking into the underwater city of Rapture for the first time is a core memory for me. It's this decaying Art Deco utopia that's fallen into complete madness. You're guided by a voice on the radio named Atlas, trying to survive splicers and the terrifying Big Daddies, all while navigating the failed philosophy of Andrew Ryan. The gameplay is a blast because it blends traditional shooting with plasmids, basically superpowers you inject into your veins. You're shocking enemies, setting them on fire, and using telekinesis. But the real emotional weight comes from the little sisters. The game asks you, do you harvest them for power or save them? That choice actually impacts the ending, and let me tell you, the "would you kindly" reveal is probably the most iconic moment in gaming history. It's a meta-commentary on player agency that makes you feel like a puppet in the best way possible. What's the downside? The gunplay can feel a little floaty compared to modern shooters, and the final boss fight is, well, it's notoriously a bit of a letdown compared to the incredible story. But the atmosphere, the world building, it's unmatched. It's a smart, philosophical thriller that proves games can tackle Ayn Rand and morality better than most movies. 10. God of War 2018. Watching Kratos, the angriest man in gaming, try to be a restrained, grieving father is one of the most compelling things I've ever seen. God of War 2018 completely reinvented the series. It's not just about tearing monsters apart anymore, it's about a journey to scatter a mother's ashes. The dynamic between Kratos and his son, Atreus, or boy, is everything. You can feel the awkwardness, the fear, and the hidden love in every single line of dialogue. The gameplay switch to the over-the-shoulder camera makes the combat feel incredibly heavy and personal. The Leviathan axe is arguably the most satisfying weapon in history. Throwing it and feeling it thud back into your hand never gets old. The one-shot camera technique, where there are no cuts for the entire game, makes the story feel like an intimate, unbroken epic. Seeing Kratos struggle to hide his past while Atreus struggles to find his identity is just peak writing. Some people miss the over-the-top scale of the Greek games, and the boss variety is a little repetitive. Lots of trolls, man. But the emotional payoff, seeing Kratos finally open up, It's a masterclass in character development. It took a one-dimensional, angry guy and turned him into a deeply relatable father. It's a beautiful, brutal, and profoundly moving journey through Norse mythology. Number 11. Senua's Saga, Hellblade II. This isn't just a game, it's an experience that demands you wear headphones. Hellblade II continues Senua's journey, and it is the most visceral representation of psychosis ever put in a digital medium. You aren't just playing as Senua, you are with her, hearing the furies, the voices in her head, whispering doubts, warnings, and insults constantly. It's overwhelming, it's beautiful, and it's deeply uncomfortable. The gameplay is very focused. The combat is cinematic and heavy. Every swing of the sword feels like a life or death struggle. It's not about combos, it's about survival. The puzzles are environmental and rely on Senua's unique perception of the world. But the real draw is the performance. Melina Juergens brings a level of raw, vulnerable emotion to Senua that puts Hollywood actors to shame. The facial animations are so realistic, it's actually kind of scary. Now, it is a very linear and short experience. If you're looking for a 50-hour open world, this isn't it. It's a tight, focused narrative that explores trauma, faith, and the strength it takes to keep moving when your own mind is against you. It's dark, it's atmospheric, and it hits like a freight train. It's a piece of art that uses the medium of gaming to build empathy in a way no other story can. 12. Horizon Zero Dawn. I remember seeing the trailer for Horizon Zero Dawn and thinking, okay, robot dinosaurs, cool. I didn't expect to find one of the most heartbreaking and intelligent sci-fi stories of the decade. You play as Aloy, an outcast in a tribal world who is trying to figure out why the old ones, us, disappeared and why machines now rule the Earth. The mystery of her birth and the Project Zero Dawn is a slow burn reveal that is absolutely devastating. The gameplay is fantastic, using different bows, elemental arrows, and traps to systematically dismantle a mechanical T-Rex. Thunderjaw is pure joy. But as you uncover the audio logs from the past, you realize the world didn't end in a cool way. It was a desperate, terrifying extinction event. Seeing the holographic recordings of scientists like Elizabeth Sobek making impossible choices to save a shred of hope for the future is what really hit me. The human-to-human combat is definitely the weakest link here, and the side quests in the first game can feel a bit fillerish. But the core mystery, the ending where Aloy finally finds what she's been looking for, man, I was a wreck. It's a story about legacy, motherhood, and the terrifying responsibility of being the only one who knows the truth. It's smart sci-fi with a huge beating heart. 13. What Remains of Edith Finch? If you only have 2 hours and want to have your heart completely dismantled, play What Remains of Edith Finch. You return to your colossal, eccentric family home as the last living Finch to figure out why everyone in your bloodline dies young. It's a walking simulator, sure, but every room tells a story through a different gameplay mechanic. 1 minute you're a cat, the next you're a character in a 50s horror comic. The gameplay is pure creativity. There's a sequence in a cannery, I won't spoil it, that is the most brilliant representation of daydreaming to escape reality I've ever seen. It's tragic, but the game treats death with this weird, whimsical beauty that makes it even more haunting. It's not about jump scares, it's about the stories we leave behind and the weight of a family legacy. It's a short experience, and some might complain there's no challenge, but the emotional challenge is the real draw here. By the time you reach the end of that house, you'll feel like you've lived 10 different lives. It's a poetic, heartbreaking masterpiece that proves you don't need 100 hours to tell a story that lasts a lifetime.
Samurai. No, you are more than
14.
Ghost of Tsushima. I went into Ghost of Tsushima expecting a cool samurai movie, and I came out feeling like I'd lost a piece of my soul. The world is arguably the most beautiful open world ever made. Following the wind through pampas grass and falling maple leaves is meditative. But the story of Jin Sakai is a brutal one. He's forced to throw away his honor and everything his uncle taught him to save his people from the Mongol invasion. The gameplay is razor sharp. The swordplay feels rhythmic and deadly, and the standoff mechanic makes you feel like an absolute boss. But the real weight is in the cost of those actions. Every time Jin uses dishonorable tactics, you can feel the rift growing between him and his family. The final duel in this game? Man, I've never felt so bad about winning a boss fight. The music, the red leaves, the dialogue, it's pure emotional destruction. The side content can get a little checklisty like a typical Ubisoft game, but the main narrative and the character of Lord Shimura are so strong you won't care. It's a story about the sacrifice of identity for the greater good. It's gorgeous, it's bloody, and the ending will leave you absolutely speechless.
15. A Plague Tale: Innocence. This game is a gut punch that just doesn't stop. Set in 14th century France during the Black Death, you play as Amicia Durun, a noble girl who suddenly has to protect her little brother Hugo from the Inquisition and literal oceans of man-eating rats. The bond between them is everything. Watching Amicia go from a sheltered girl to a hardened survivor who will kill to protect her brother is both inspiring and deeply sad. The gameplay is a mix of stealth and puzzles using your sling and fire to keep the rats at bay. The rats are terrifying, not just because they kill you, but because of the sheer, screeching volume of them. But the real horror is seeing what the world does to these children. Hugo's innocence is slowly chipped away, and the game doesn't shy away from the trauma they're experiencing. The stealth can feel a bit gamey and repetitive at times, and the boss fights are a little clunky, but the atmosphere, the feeling of being two kids against a world gone mad, it's incredibly effective. It's a dark, grim, yet beautiful story about sibling love in the darkest of times. You'll be holding your breath for them the entire way.
16. NieR Automata. NieR Automata is the kind of game that starts as a cool action title about androids fighting robots and ends with you questioning the meaning of existence. It's a Yoko Taro game, so you have to play it multiple times to get the full story. By the time you reach ending E, your brain will be melted and your heart will be in pieces. It tackles consciousness, religion, and what it means to be human when humanity is long gone. The gameplay is developed by Platinum Games, so the combat is stylish, fast, and incredibly smooth. You're switching between hack and slash, twin-stick shooter, and side-scroller seamlessly, but the music is the secret weapon. The soundtrack is haunting and changes dynamically based on what's happening. When the credits roll on the final ending and you realize what the game is asking you to do for other players, it's one of the most powerful moments in all of gaming. The graphics can be a bit bland with lots of gray ruins and deserts, and the repetitive nature of the second playthrough turns some people off, but please push through it. The narrative payoff is a philosophical explosion that hit me harder than any sci-fi movie I've ever seen. It's a unique masterpiece that could only work as a video game. 17. Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. We spent years adventuring with Nathan Drake, seeing him escape death 1,000 times, but Uncharted 4 is where the consequences finally catch up. It's a much more mature, grounded story about a man addicted to the thrill of the hunt while trying to maintain a normal life with Elena. The introduction of his brother, Sam, adds this layer of childhood trauma and loyalty that makes the stakes feel so much higher than just finding treasure. The gameplay is peak Naughty Dog, explosive set pieces, tight climbing, and satisfying gunplay. but the quiet moments are what hit hardest. Sitting in Nate's attic, looking at relics from past games, or that dinner scene with Elena where you can feel the tension and the lies. It's incredibly well acted. You really see the toll that adventuring has taken on his life and his relationships. It's a bit longer than the previous games, and some of the pacing in the middle, like the Scotland or Madagascar sections, can drag a bit, but as a final chapter for Nathan Drake, it's perfect. It's a story about growing up, letting go of the past, and realizing that the greatest treasure are the people you've got. The ending is so wholesome and earned, it made me cry just from the sheer relief. 18. Firewatch. And finally, we have Firewatch. This game is a mood. You play as Henry, a guy who takes a job as a fire lookout in the Wyoming wilderness to escape a heartbreaking situation with his wife. Your only contact is a woman named Delilah on the other end of a radio. The entire game is built on their relationship and the conversations they have while you explore the woods. The gameplay is simple. You hike, you report things, you solve a growing mystery, but the writing is so natural and witty that you start to feel a real connection to this person you never even see. It's about loneliness, the desire to run away from your problems, and the reality that you eventually have to go back. The ending is notoriously polarizing because it's grounded, but for me, that's why it hits so hard. It's real life. The mystery can feel a bit like it's building to something supernatural, which might disappoint some when the truth is revealed. But the emotional core, Henry's grief and his bond with Delilah, is flawless. The art style is gorgeous, like a moving postcard. It's a short, quiet, and deeply relatable story that captures a very specific feeling of being lost in your own life. And that is our list. 18 games that proved that a controller in your hand can deliver an emotional punch way more powerful than any movie screen. Whether it's the existential dread of NieR, the parental love in God of War, or the simple loneliness of Firewatch, these stories stay with you. But hey, those are just my picks. I'm sure you've had a game that absolutely wrecked you that I didn't mention. Which game made you stare at the credits in total silence? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to talk about it with you.